All right. Well, we're going to kick off now our partner panel, and everyone that you see up here on stage is someone that has collaborated with us to build content in the wiki. And so just want to point out some of the people that are on stage here. So Jennifer Heitler, who she helped 4,500 voters in Colorado figure out how to vote in both English and Spanish. We have Jacqueline Brennan, who is focused on empowering women and building her network as a service that she'll talk a bit about, and some of the content we've built to help women navigate educational decisions. Courtney Werner, who has been a part of building one of the fastest growing Austin startup communities, helping startup founders get access to resources that they need and overcome some of those challenges. And Ari Salafia with Tax Taker, who has just built an amazing business that is really just taking off in the R&D tax credits and ERTC space, so helping startup founders navigate tax credits. And Dustin Binghamton, who is also the co-founder of a cap table management software here in Austin, that they've got a very really amazing new fresh take on the pricing model for cap table management. And Tina Schwager, who has been helping us a lot on marketing, has been an incredible marketer for a long time, and she'll share about her research in analyzing the logic behind emotional intelligence. And then Tim Francis, who had the pleasure of meeting recently, who is the party we have later tonight. This is his magic behind that event, and also just a very operational genius from that side of it. So yeah, I think maybe the very first thing just to start is I would like, even though I've introduced them, just share a little bit about who you are, what you're working on, what your passion is, and kind of why you're here for World Logic Day. And maybe Jennifer, if you want to start.
Hi, I'm Jen. Can you hear me? Yes, perfect. I consult with all different kinds of companies, and I focus, my passion is really problem solving and strategy. So when I learned about Logictry, I just started, my brain was going wild with all the possibilities and looking at how all my different clients could implement it and provide information in a seamless, easy way to whoever their audience was. So one of my clients, Colorado Forum, is a 80-member nonpartisan organization in Colorado that works to push Colorado forward. And they had a big challenge on getting certain audiences out to vote. So they recognized that Spanish speakers, students, they really struggled with getting the information they needed because it was all over the place, it wasn't clear, it wasn't written well. And so we built out all these tools, specifically using Logictry, to bring all that information together. We translated it into Spanish. We did tons of marketing to get it to the right audiences, and we had 4,500 people come in, take the survey, and understand, am I registered to vote? Where do I vote? How do I vote? But it was completely nonpartisan. So just getting information to people in a really easy way was extremely effective. And the results on the back end, the client was just astounded by it. And we did this all within like 2 weeks' time. So it was like incredible. So, and I'm super grateful, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and I'll mention one thing that's funny is we created it, and one of our team members is located in Prague in the Czech Republic, and he's a US citizen, and we were creating it, and he's like, oh, what is this content? And he actually started going through it, and he's like, oh, I'm registered to vote, and I'm overseas, and here's the exact guide for how I can vote. So I thought it was awesome that one of our team members was actually empowered to vote based on what she had built. So Jacqueline, do you want to say a little bit about what you're working on, your passion?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Chris. So my name is Jacqueline Brennan. I go by Jax. I'm the CEO of Fili. Fili stands for tribe in Greek and family in Latin. And we've coined the term NAS, Network as a Service. So we're a private membership community for early stage female founders. We focus on education, resources, accountability, and providing them funding opportunities. So clearly, I'm really passionate about the advancement of women, closing the gender equity gap, and Feely started because it was something that I needed personally. I was a corporate fashion creative director for over a decade. I left corporate to start a tech company. It was a SaaS B2B software in 2018, and I had a really challenging time in that transition. I wish that I had the community, the resources, the training, and surrounding myself with other founders that were going through the same obstacles I was. So I launched Feely as a club within Soho House in New York City 3 years ago, and now today we're a global community of 11,000 women. And we run small cohorts, so 8 to 10 women per cohort for 12 months of a really unique curriculum structure. And we've been partnering with Logictry over the past several months to build that curriculum structure and really do some great impact data.
And Courtney?
Yeah, I'm Courtney Werner, and Fiesta was actually just started out of a necessity for needing some support, essentially. We have another company called Koya, and experienced a lot of the struggles that most first-time founders experience. Learned a lot of things the hard way, and decided that it would be fantastic to start a community whereby we could help support one another. It grew very fast, and to our surprise, and so we are actually partnering with Logictry in order to create the resources that we hear founders saying that they need, such as, what kind of lawyers should I be looking for, and who are the different service providers. So it's been a joy to work with Logictry and be able to capture all of that data to make it easier for the founders.
And Ari?
Hi everyone, I'm Ari Salafia. I'm the founder and CEO of Tax Taker. We help startups and small businesses leverage the government tax code to their advantage. Most of us do not get into business thinking about our taxes, let alone our accounting, but that means that we miss out on government dollars that could propel our business forward. So really passionate about connecting people with good people and resources. So it's such a treat to be here on stage with all of these organizers and folks that generally have interest in and are passionate also about making sure that folks have the resources that they need, because we are much stronger together. Tax Taker has had a unique set of challenges just with outreach. We have competitors in our space that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. So to compete with those, you've got to be scrappy and figure out ways to educate the market without just paid search. So we were really excited about working with Logictry because we were able to develop a couple of calculators that allow businesses that might be searching for ways to extend their runway to easily find a single source of truth that doesn't just have kind of bias and kind of sales gimmicks attached to that. And it's something that our clients and partners were asking for. So really, really excited to have these tools that we can promote, and so that businesses at any given time can see how much money we're getting back annually. And so last year, Tax Taker helped businesses claim over $10 million without some of these tools. So I'm just so thrilled to measure how much impact we're going to be able to put back into small businesses' pockets this year with Logictry.
Awesome. Yeah, and really helping people with, when you don't know what you don't know, right? If you don't know that there's non-dilutive capital out there or other ways to get financing, it can be it can hold you back, not knowing that option exists. So, all right, Dustin?
Yeah, well, that actually segues perfectly into 212 because we focus on equity management. And so 212, we provide software for startups and investors that helps them manage all of their shareholders and do things like run 409A valuations, or we have software for funds. But ultimately, the kernel of the problem stems from a lot of unknown unknowns in equity finance. is very complicated. In fact, one of our advisors comes from private equity, and he says that the venture startup ecosystem is much, much more complicated. The whole cascading terms and how one kind of term sheet or one class would affect another class, a lot of founders go into it without the proper education and resources. And so we build software that supports them, cap table management that's affordable and easy to use, and unlimited use, which is quite a bit different than our competitors. But really, the root of the problem is we got to get to education, and we use the tool to educate. But we also do a lot of webinars, and we work with groups, accelerators. Jacqueline and I were just talking about maybe ways that we could help support their organization with startup finance education. And when I found Chris and I found Logictry, I was like, man, that's a really different way of educating. And the more I got into it, I'm used to writing blog posts and doing all the normal stuff, but this was really kind of a sea change in the way that I could communicate with my audience. And because there's so many very kind of personas in my ecosystem, whether it's early stage founders, late stage founders, investors, I can even do things where I create content and let them kind of choose their own adventure about where they step into, where their knowledge gap is. And so I found it a really useful educational tool.
Awesome. Yeah, and we actually ended up becoming a customer of 212, so we use it as our cap table management. And one of the things I thought was funny is they have, within the software, it asks you what sustainable development goals you align with, and that was a required question, not an optional one, so you had to pick one. I am curious, if you want to say anything about, y'all put that into the software, anything you wanted to mention on that?
Well, it's just, in the future we'll be doing cap table search, and so you could think of it as like a real-time competitor pitch book. And so what you can do is investors will be able to search for specific criteria, and we think that the UN stated goals are should be top of the list.
All right, Tina?
I'm Tina Schwager. I'm the founder and CEO of Feelalytics, and we are working to bring logic to emotions. I know those sound a little contradictory, but what we're doing right now is, and where the Logictry really helps, is I'm working on a new model for emotions. I'm an entrepreneur, a designer, an artist, a psychologist, and I'm creating a new model for emotions and how you can use mindfulness techniques to change your emotional state, and helping to identify which emotional state you're in and get more granular with what you can be aware of on how you're feeling. And then the platform has been amazing because it is so question and answer based and logic based. Putting together something like that at the scale that I'm looking at would take me forever as a designer and to build something, but on Logictry's platform it goes up in a day and I can start testing it with people. So that's what I'm working on right now.
And so do you think, are emotions logical?
Well, part of them, yeah. I think it depends on how you think about them. And for me, it's kind of like I want to feel joy, or I want to feel happy, I want to cultivate gratitude. How might I do that? And there are ways, and that's, I think, not something that people are taught a lot in emotional intelligence, and I'd love to contribute more to the world. And like, emotional intelligence is a skill that you can build, and I'm creating tools that can help people become more aware of their emotions and become more intelligent about what emotional state they're in and what state they'd like to be in.
All right, Tim.
It's a great time to be alive. It really is, that we get to have such incredible opportunities to connect at events like this. Anything we want really is one introduction away, isn't it? And also being able to combine great technology with human capital is just incredible. So my name is Tim, and in my company, we help hire executive assistants for leaders, and we've helped hire 600 or 700 now. And when I saw logic.wiki and Logictry, it's in that class of tools that's just supercharged, like ChatGPT and other tools that are really hitting the mass market now. And the way our pilot project with Chris was, how can we train and fulfill the potential of teammates much more quickly? And Logictry and logic.wiki really does that. It's incredible. I was a college athlete growing up, and so learning how to fulfill my potential and make good on the gifts I've been given by the divine and whatnot has always been a passion of mine. And so to be able to help each and every knowledge worker to be able to get up to speed and be effective as fast as possible so that they can improve their circumstances as well and make a bigger difference in the world has been a big passion of mine. So thank you, Chris, for what you've built, and thank you to Chelsea for bringing us all here today.
All right, so maybe coming back this direction, and we'll start again with you, Tim. So what is logic?
You know, if you think about life is nothing more than just a series of decisions, right? Everything from getting up in the morning, what I'm going to wear for clothes, to what's the recommendation I'm going to make to a client or to a teammate. It's really quite remarkable. And I didn't get this question ahead of time, so I'm proud of how good I'm doing here. I think in terms of decision burden, when it comes to getting teams up to speed. What is the difficulty of the questions that a person has to tackle, and what is the volume of those same decisions that they have to make? And I think of that on an XY axis. And the more that we have difficulty and volume of decision making, now we have, like the talent pool gets smaller and smaller, and it gets more and more expensive to solve that. So the more that I can use logic through tools like Logic.wiki, Logictry, ChatGPT, all the rest, it's almost like kind of democratizing expertise. I think it was John Maynard Keynes, I think, don't quote me on that, or maybe someone can fact check me, who'd said something like, oh, you know, we're gonna have this life of leisure, it's gonna be super relaxed in the future, we're gonna have a tough time even finding ways to work enough hours in the day. I'm seeing some nods, you know, and you know, fast forward to the 80s, it's like, oh, computers are gonna replace the office worker. And that doesn't happen. I mean, basically, technology just helps us to play a bigger game. And so to me, logic is the principle that sits underneath that, and then codifying that into tools like AI, like logic tools and whatnot, is what helps us to bring down that decision burden. And that to me is what logic. How did I do?
Wow.
Drop the mic.
And I get to follow that. Well, actually, I could build on that. You know, logic, emotions, do they ever get in the way of making decisions?
Never.
Never. I think, you know, for me, logic is the goal, and emotions are the things that get in the way. I mean, emotions can cause you to make some of the worst decisions ever. You know, those are, you know, reactive, or you're angry, and if you can bring logic to your emotions, and actually there's our techniques and tools, breathing. I'm feeling super nervous right now talking in front of all of you, so I'm trying to breathe in and out slowly and not make any decisions to say random things that might not make any sense. So I think logic is decision making at its core, and I hope to help people make decisions taking their emotions into account, but not letting their emotions drive those decisions.
Dustin.
I don't know, I'll take a shot at this new thing I've been playing around with, which is that truth is a subset of reality. And so we kind of figure out these rules of the game, and 2 + 2 = 4, we can all agree on that, and then we can kind of work on and think about higher level things and scale and play a bigger game. And so logic is kind of like that. If we can have the right operating system and the right both information and kind of processing to get the right output, then we can spend our time working on discovering new truths or new logic and kind of upping our game.
Yeah, and such a challenge there is, like you said, if it's built upon the right information, then you can start making these better, more higher level informed decisions. But if it's predicated on the wrong assumptions, you know, thinking about first principles thinking, right? So how do you go back to what are those first principles, those assumptions you've made that ultimately end up influencing a lot of the decisions that you're making in your life? So
there are 2 types of games. There's like simple games, which have really fast results and really clear boundaries. Like think like golf or chess or something like that, and you get quick feedback loops. And then wicked games are the ones where you might get like a false signal, but it's long-term bad but looks good, or vice versa in the short term, or you get a really long delay into the signal. And so those models become really useful when you're playing wicked games, because you can't just like test and iterate. You have to kind of like make big leaps, and logic can be useful in those kinds of scenarios.
Awesome. I would say that I look at logic much like a compass, because you've got to be able to kind of navigate your own kind of waters, sometimes on the fly, and short term and long term. It's also sort of a discipline. I remember when I first took a stab at building the first draft for Logictry so that their brilliant folks could help me actually put it together, my brain hurt. Definitely more of the visionary archetype. So logic is something that's more of that kind of integrator archetype kind of mindset. So I definitely see myself sometimes challenged by like putting some of the discipline that needs to be put together in processes that, ultimately will help, business or even, personal decisions like scale or be more effective for the long term. I think logic definitely helps us to navigate kind of what our short-term needs are, what our long-term needs look like, and it really just puts more structure to our lives. Yeah, logic.
Yeah, and Tim, you even said something similar when you put together the flow chart that you created about how long that took to codify.
Really felt inadequate on that one.
Yeah, so our pilot project was how to delegate your email inbox, and what logic map would we have to put in front of an executive assistant so that an entrepreneur or leader could get that off their plate. And I provided that. It's a lot of thinking, but to your, there's kind of like this like startup cost to figure out like intellectually how could I possibly do this. But what's fantastic is when you can do work once and not have to repeat it over and over again. So it was a heavy lift. It took me probably 20 hours of just sitting in front of flowchart software. My eyes are getting all crossed up, just trying to figure out what goes to what and where's my decision diamond. But once we did it once, oh my goodness, I give it to Chris. Chris gave it back to me, and I'm now giving it to my executive assistant. She's like, oh my God, in 4 questions, I'm able to handle every email that comes through, which originally was like 50 or 60 hours of training that I had to give her back when I didn't have this kind of tool. So absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, all that training and time needed just to think through the 4 questions. It's kind of like a shortcut, a mental model to being able to see how to apply that. So, Courtney?
I would say logic is weighing options, and so it's the thought behind a decision, essentially, which is why it takes so long to do the different, the logic apps, because you're having to consciously think through those things, whereas usually I would say logic is a bit more subconscious, so it causes you to use your brain and be mindful and be able to put it on paper.
Similar. So the ability to think clearly, analyze options, and then make decisions. That's how I think about logic. And the correlation between logic and knowledge, and I think that's really what you're building, the brain of the world.
I think personally my only truth is that new information can come along and change whatever my truth is. And so having access to the right questions, the right information, for me is where logic and what logic is all about, and understanding the question. And that's, I think, in building in building any logic tree, it's like really knowing what the problem are you solving and what is the question, then, it kind of flows. But I think it's interesting that new information will always, continue to evolve. And so logic will continue to evolve as well. So.
Awesome. So I think, the next question, the thing that's common with everyone here is that they wanted to do the work to share that logic and help others that now can have access and make better decisions in their life. That's not the same for everyone. I've had a lot of people say, why would I want to do that? That's my secret sauce. Or, they want to harbor that expertise so that maybe there's more profit for them in that, or maybe it's just other motives behind it. So what, as the last question, just maybe a little bit about what was it that made you want to contribute, and why did you want to see that impact? And Jennifer, if you want to.
I mean, I think for me, I love giving people, creating a barrier to easy access to information that people need to have impact in the world seems wasteful. So being able to leverage Logictry for people to be able to, vote when they need to vote, or have access to, money saving tools, like all of these things, like why I think our businesses are predicated on giving the information, but then helping them in a million other ways. So I think it's a great way to, it's even a barrier. It's not a barrier. It's a way that we can even open up our business even further. It's not something that's stopping us from, I think for any of us, stopping us from, growing our business. It helps us grow our business.
Absolutely. When I think about the types of resources we built with Logictry for our community, it was really focused on funds that were supporting women, so the top funds investing in women globally, grant resources, and then what resources you can look for to hire women. And for us, that's something we talk about all the time. Only 2.5% of venture funding is going to women, less than 1% to women of color. So by me sharing these resources and creating these lists and matrices, it's only actually helping our founders, and everybody should have access to that.
I think Fiesta by nature is very collaborative. And you said it earlier that we're better together, and so we really believe that. And if we're able to create resources that other people find valuable and want to use, then great. Like, I love that. I love that we're able to help and hopefully be able to work more together. That's the whole purpose and goal of Fiesta. So I feel like Logictry and creating these things fit right in to that kind of space.
Awesome. Yeah, I keep hearing access as well, and I am a true believer that just access to information is so important, and access to the right information is even more important, no matter where you are in your journey. And democratizing knowledge can be so valuable. I think long are the days where just, a small percentage has to have all the wealth. Why can't I be successful, you be successful, you be successful? It has no bearing for me to hoard, in the long run, because, it's a lot more fun if everyone else is successful around us. So I'm really excited about the ways that resources are going to become more and more available, because at the end of the day, building a business is so hard. You have the odds stacked up against you on the daily. Sometimes you don't even know what the next kind of hurdle is going to be. So to have folks that have already charted maybe some of those paths or some of those situations that you might not even know that you're going to come up against is just so extremely valuable. And so I'm excited to be around folks that are navigating those challenges and sharing and what happens and how to think about things when you cross that next set of rules. So democratizing knowledge, all for it.
I'll be quick. I like giving value before receiving it. And so education is a great way to earn the trust of my customers and to help them with a critical problem that they have at the same time.
I have big dreams. I want to leave a legacy in the world. There's a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of contempt out there, and it drives more than it should. I feel like there's a lot of good science and a lot of good research around emotional intelligence, but there's not a lot of access to that information. The particular skills that I have that bridge research and science with design and marketing, I think I'm in a unique position to bring some of that knowledge and research into a place that's actionable, and ultimately the Logictry platform makes these kinds of learnings actionable because it gives you the tools to make decisions based on what you're feeling or whatever information that you have. And so I think that this wiki is really the first step for me in helping to hopefully move the world forward in emotional intelligence.
I think one of the main jobs of leaders is to be responsive to the environment. And just like you can now basically study entire university degrees just on YouTube at no charge. You may not get the credential, but you can get the knowledge. So too are things like decision making. And so technology just gives us the opportunity to raise the bar. I just got to get better. That's it. I just got to get better as an entrepreneur. If things that I used to charge for are now going to be free, no problem. Let's just adjust, let's adapt, and let's get better. And I love the way that technology is allowing my teammates and people that we help to punch above their weight class faster. It'd be like me getting out of a Ford Mustang and into a Lamborghini. I haven't become a better driver, but I can drive faster. And I love how what is happening here, the combination of humans and technology, allows that to happen.
All right, well, we are out of time, but I do want to say thank you to everyone up here. Every one of these people is doing amazing things. They are creating a company. They're experts in their area, but uniquely they've taken time to say that education matters. And they have, like Tim just said, they're sharing things that even maybe disrupts their own pricing model, right? But if it's in the betterment of society, then they view that worth it more than their own financial gain. So I want to say thank you to everyone here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.